Many of you have judged my understanding of Deepwoken's lore. Many people have said I don't understand it, and it actually makes sense if you actually analyze it. And that's been bothering me. So for the last week, I have watched every Lore Freak video, analyzed every developer lore statement, and read tons of item descriptions within the game, so I could explain in detail why Deepwoken's lore still doesn't make sense, even if you understand it, and it's actually all dumb. If you enjoy, make sure to subscribe, since only about 20% of the people watching this video right now are actually subscribed. And also, I'm live on Twitch right now as of the time this video is coming out, so go there, and if I'm not live and you're watching this, you just happen to be on this video within 10 seconds of it getting out, I promise you, I'm live on Twitch. Now let's get into it. First up, the Ignition Union is up for analyzing. The Ignition Union is a non-legally recognized corporation which exists to mine. The Ignition Union primarily mines between layers of the observable universe to explore the depths and overworlds for resources. Resources which they use to make technology like the Mecha Sharkos and weapons like the Darksteel Greatsword. And they also created the Railblade. So let's talk about the Railblade. This is a legendary flame-based weapon which is non-enchantable and provides no other special effects. First of all, I said this last video, but even now there is no reason for the Railblade to be unenchantable. A lot of people in the comments were saying, it's for balancing! But if it's for balancing, the developers should at least be able to fit it into their lore, so that way it would make sense and still be balanced. It simply isn't imbued with the flame attunement as other legendary weapons are imbued with their attunements. It just emits flames via the flamethrower handle, which the user channels their flame charm energy into. Second of all, in the description of the Railblade, we see that it's supposed to protect you from the parasites of Layer 2's Eternal Gale, but it doesn't. Why include lore to the weapon that doesn't actually exist in gameplay? The devs are selling. There's gameplay which doesn't exist in the lore, in the fact that it's unenchantable, and there's lore that doesn't exist in the gameplay in the fact that it doesn't make you immune to the parasite snow of Layer 2. And also, the Ignition Union are maybe communists, with the Arc Warder card having a very blatant one referring to your allies as comrades and quoting Marxist ideals such as from each according to their ability and to each according to their needs. And it doesn't make sense that the Ignition Union would be communist. They're a corporation who sell, buy, and manufacture. Of all the factions that you could have made communist, why would you make the Ignition Union the commies? This brings me back to the developers. I know Reaconteur isn't going to work on the game for free. Obviously they need money, but the fact that at least half the Deepwoken dev team at this point claims to be communist when they benefit off of capitalism and make no attempt to try and be communists makes no sense to me. I love Noctagonus. He's my favorite dev and I love the music in the game. Very well done, but I don't understand his reasoning for being communist. Also, back to Captain Orlando, but he's actually technically a Deepwoken and potentially on par with Pleatsky, or on the way to be there. My goat, Captain Orlando, ate a piece of a drowned god, and yet he's yet to kill Claris and take over the divers, which is what I'm really hoping he does. But back to Pleatsky, his lore is a bit weird. Basically, every flame charm user or any attunement user controls and manipulates the element of which they use to a lesser extent than the Deepwoken that discovered it. This means that Pleatsky was able to talk to and command flames as the first flame charmer. And what? So you're telling me all the attunement elements are alive and can be spoken to, but only Pleatsky and the other Deepwoken have ever actually done it? Yeah, likely story. More likely, Pleatsky ate the meteor flower, went insane because that's like some insane drug hallucinogen stuff, and then right after he ate it, he went schizophrenic. He became schizophrenic, he learned flame charm, and then he made people believe he could talk to the flames, and everyone believed him because he was the only person capable of controlling the flames. But Pleatsky was a crazy man, and everyone believed him. And seeing how all the elements are alive, this helps to back up my theory that Deepwoken's oceans are communist, as expressed in my first lore video. For a restatement, the reason why the Great Drowning happened was to punish overuse of the song and greed of Seltor. Basically, capitalism was being punished by a world-altering event because the ocean is an evil communist force of the song made to spread their Marxist ideals. Now the thing about that is, people were like, oh, the ocean can't be communist, it just sunk because of the profits and all that. But, has it considered, like, to you guys that it's probably still a metaphor for communism because the devs, lots of them are communist and believe in communist ideals? So, more than likely, even if the ocean isn't communist, it's got some communist ideals, and it's definitely communist, okay? Just stop. And let's talk about this bitch Claris, who I hate. in more detail. It's hypothesized, but not confirmed, that she was a child chosen by the gods and born with the Lightkeeper attunement, which is how she casts Lighthook onto people. So a few things here. First of all, this greedy bitch has Lightkeeper maybe, and second of all, she uses it selfishly. She refuses to offer the teachings of Lightkeeper's attunement, and because of her massive ego, she banished Captain Orlando to Layer 2 because he disagreed with her. She's also supposed to be stronger than Chaser and on par with Akira or slightly weaker than him. So why doesn't she send Akira down to kill Chaser or go down herself? Worst case scenario, she can try and make amends with the Ignition Union and take their deep drill, or even just kill them and steal the deep drill. And if she sends Akira down, he should be able to pretty easily kill Chaser if he's supposed to be the strongest black diver. And if she's actually needed to bring people up from Layer 2, then she could just stop being greedy and teach someone else Lightkeeper magic if that is what she's using. And let's talk about Akira. He's seen as the black diver young prodigy. But he's also kind of a little bitch. If you have 100 charisma, he runs away from you because he doesn't think his bell will work on you without sacrificing his own lifespan and power. But if he's supposed to be some prodigy, why can't he just fight normally? I think Top Pop, which is the name of his bell, actually carries him. He's only a prodigy because he got lucky enough to get something as powerful as Corrupted Top Pop, which can just instantly kill people. And if he didn't have that bell, he wouldn't be nearly as powerful otherwise, because then he would not have to run away. He's literally just Megami from Jujutsu Kaisen. It's like all he has is this potential, but he doesn't have the skill to match it. Akira ain't on nothing. And then Reaconteur had the audacity to say, the bell doesn't carry him. Okay, then why doesn't he kill the Chaser? Why is he scared of anyone with 100 charisma? Why does he do no actual work around the diver's base? Bro thinks it's because he's the strongest he can just be useless? I think Akira's a fraud. So why don't we put Akira to work and see what he's actually capable of? Because I'm starting the Akira fraud allegations. And these aren't going to drop until he's proven that he's actually capable. Next up is Chaser. He betrayed the divers and was shown to be an operative of the Ministry. Under the Ministry, he made an oath which gave him control over blood. But what type of control over blood does he have exactly? It seems like he can't control other people's blood, otherwise I would think he would just instantly kill you by drawing it all out of your body. Most likely he can only control his own blood, which is why all of his attacks either come from his blood jars or emit from his body. He also steals the bells of people he's killed, even though he can't use them for some reason. That's probably just like a trophy thing for him. But all I have to ask is, how does his blood work? If he controls live blood cells like the ones in his body, then he shouldn't be able to control the blood that's been outside of his body and that's in his jars for too long after, because it'll die and he should lose connection to it. Along with that, why doesn't he clot his blood to make harder weapons and spikes and stuff? All I'm saying is that Chaser is wasted potential, and he manages to have the grossest, most overpowered powers in the game while also underutilizing them. Like, if he can control his own blood, he could just shoot out blood spikes. He could just cut himself, make it rain blood all over the stadium. Boom, it's raining spikes, you're dead. Anyway, about the Drowned Gods. Drowned Gods reside in many different layers of the depths in-game. Coral Fiend resides in Layer 3, which is known as the Carnal Vents. Etheron and Yunshul aren't completely known, and no, Etheron and the Scion of Etheron are not the same thing. The Scion of Etheron and Etheron are kind of like Prismo from Adventure Time. It's like an astral projection made by Etheron in its sleep that it kind of commands subconsciously. Regardless of any of the three known Drowned Gods, which are Yunshul, Girlfriend? Why did I put Girlfriend in my script? I meant Coral Fiend. And Etheron, or any of the unknown Drowned Gods, wake up, then the world and universe will just come to an end. It would be like the tides, but 10 times worse. It's also theorized that the old world of the Cataclysm is actually our real world, except the difference is we in life never discovered the song, which is why the tides never happened to us. And that's also why the Deepwoken world is so small when you really look at it. While in our world we have continents and countries, Deepwoken is mostly sea because everything else got drowned out. So I have another theory. What if the tides weren't caused by gods, but it was climate change and global warming? Think about it. Deepwoken's temperatures globally, as in at every island, are mild enough to withstand in any clothing. Meaning the coldest islands aren't really cold enough to be hypothermic, while the hottest islands aren't hot enough to be hyperthermic. So what if the ice caps melted, drowning most of the world, while few islands were left, and climate change is actually what decimated the world of Deepwoken, and the tides weren't a magical force? Pleatsky was schizophrenic, the tides were caused by mass global warming and climate change, and capitalism, which destroyed the world, and resulted in very few surviving nations being left in the place of everything before it. That would mean this game is even more communist than I thought, because the world was destroyed by capitalism, kind of like our real world, and the post-tides world is all the remaining communists. But that's just a theory. So let's talk more about the other attunements. Obviously, in order to have discovered other attunements, there needs to be more Deepwoken like Pleatsky that we don't have any lore on for some reason, even though realistically there should be equal, if not more, to them than there are to Pleatsky. And yes, the term for someone who discovered an element or attunement is a Deepwoken. Let that sink in. Anyway, we know very little about the other Deepwoken. We do know that Gale Breath was likely discovered within Layer 2 through a piece of Etheron, because Etheron is the drowned god of Gale and controls all parts of the Gale. Someone had to eat some part of it, and what we know almost nothing about, however, are Thundercall, and the drowned god which commands it, Frostdraw and the god that commands it, although we can assume the founder of Frostdraw is the Saint J because of the talent likely named off of him, but that's not confirmed. And finally, every other attunement that doesn't exist in the game for obtainment. And Ironsing is a little bit weird, and so is Shadow, which I'll talk about both of those. So first of all, Ironsing is the only one of the 5 attunements in game which was created by man and not awakened by godly powers. This is likely to be one of the abusive actions which cause the tides, as the gods sin like mere mortals dwelling into godhood creating new attunements. Anyway, along with that, there's Shadowcast, which is a bit weird as well, so we have to talk about the Ministry. And first of all, we all already know the Ministry is just weird as fuck. The Lord Regent is the 4th prophet, meaning likely he is the 4th strongest prophet if chronological ordering matters in terms of strength, but obviously he's about 1,000 years old at this point and still hasn't gotten his ass jumped. Like, bro, get all of Guild Lancelot on that and he's done for. 4th prophet versus 20 Shadow Contractor Eclipse Kick users, and he does not got that. Also, about the 1st prophet and the discoverer of Shadowcast, Yunshul seems like the obvious pick to be the god of Shadowcast, but we actually don't know. With Layer 1 of the depths being dark and gloomy, we know it's potentially related to Shadow, but in actuality, Yunshul is most likely just the drowned god in operation with resonances, bells, and wishes rather than any attunements. So more than likely, Shadowcast is way deeper than we think it is in the depths. If bells are discovered in Layer 1, Gale in Layer 2, and Flame Charm in Layer 3, then we could only assume we start to get down to Shadow pretty deep in, with more powerful attunements belonging to more chaotic gods deeper into the depths. And since the 1st prophet is kind of just chilling super deep in like one of the deeper layers, like 8 or 9 or something, it could be safe to assume that Shadowcast is controlled by a drowned god not yet named that's near the double-digit layers, and it's probably super evil or chaotic. And also, the 1st prophet is probably, or was, a Ganymede before he shattered and left behind his humanity. Just thought I should bring that out. Now let's just talk more about Silent Heart. When talking to the Dreadstar, it seems like an evil being, but the way it speaks correlates to some lore. It claims to hate the abuse of the song, like the type of abuse that originally led to the tides. So, first of all, the Dreadstar is a communist, because, you know, everything in this game is communist. Second of all, what if the Dreadstar is the voice of a drowned god that potentially helped cause the tides, which is why it hates the abuse of the song's power so much? Or alternatively, and more likely, it's just evil and hates magic because magic is like the gift of the gods, and the Dreadstar is actually just Satan that you make a deal with. Like, it also commands you to kill a bunch of magic trainers, which is cool, but it's also kind of useless since the trainers are strong enough to easily escape the depths, which is why killing them doesn't really matter, and they always come back. But the Dreadstar is one of two things. God, who is telling you to kill people who use and abuse the song because they're abusing the power of the gods, which was given to them as a gift, or Satan, who hates magic and just wants you to kill people because they use magic. It's either a being of pure good who's killing people to make things better, or a being of pure evil who's killing people because it's evil. That's what the Dreadstar just seems to be, in my opinion. Make sure to subscribe and follow me on Twitch because I'm live right now. By right now, I mean as of this video coming out. I hope you all have a great day. I love you all. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment on anything I missed that I could talk about. This is probably going to be one of my last lore videos, unless they, you know, decide to expand the lore. The devs get a little bit lazy with that. But if you guys want to hear me talk about more lore, tell me about some things I could talk about, which I kind of forgot this, but I forgot to talk about how the lore is even dumber than I thought, because so much of the stuff that was probably mentioned in this video isn't even in the lore anymore, because so many of it gets retconned and just added and changed. Like, one thing that got retconned that was pretty funny was, like, all the racism, which could have been fun in gameplay, because then you could have benefits in certain territories. Or, you know, like, Shadowcast is illegal, but we don't even know if it's still illegal or if it was retconned, because you don't actually get punished or nobody comments on you using Shadowcast. So it could be illegal, it could not be illegal. Nobody knows. I love you all, have a great day, come to my stream, and goodbye.